Hi everybody, I'm Lorraine Murray from Connected Kids and the author of the book Calm Kids, and thank you for joining me. So this is a video blog where I can share some information that you may find helpful for teaching children meditation, which is, I have to say, my life passion. So today I wanted to concentrate on the differences between mindfulness and meditation. For me, meditation is an all-embracing term which can really incorporate many different approaches to what we think of as an opportunity to feel a little bit better within ourselves, to calm the mind, relax the body, and so on. And mindfulness also lends itself very well to relaxing the body, stilling the mind, and helping us process and recognise emotions. But they kind of do it in a couple of slightly different ways. So mindfulness for me is about being very present in the moment, being very observant of where I am at this moment in time. And that could be by observing my breath. It could be by observing my mind. It could be by focusing on my body. Or it could be by just noticing how I feel and actually naming the emotions that I'm recognising and feeling. And it really is about being very present in the moment, about encouraging a sense of stillness within. And it can lend itself really well to normal day-to-day activities. So things like walking and eating. I even think things like making a drink or preparing foods or brushing your teeth, having a shower, washing your hair, whatever it is. So we can bring awareness into that. And it also really taps into all the different senses that we have. So we can have a sound meditation, we can have a touch meditation, we can have a smell, even a taste. And obviously there's the sense of sight. So mindfulness tends to encourage us to be very present with this moment rather than live in our mind worrying about the past and worrying about the future. And that's a really good technique, I feel, to teach our teenage population. I find that it lends itself really well to allowing themselves to be in their body and to accept their body. And remember, there's lots of image issues that young people have, their hair, makeup, boys or girls, how their clothes are. So there's all these kind of different things going on, and plus a lot of hormonal changes going on as well. So it's a very challenging time, and having outbursts that they don't feel proud of but they don't know how to control. So I think mindfulness lends itself really well to that. My only caveat for mindfulness is that somebody told me about a piece of research that did show that mindfulness wasn't fantastic for anyone suffering from depression. Now, I've not been able to substantiate that, but I think it's something to bear in mind and to, I suppose, just intuitively decide whether it feels right for the teenagers that you're teaching. Sometimes research is great, but every child, every person is different. So if you're teaching them, you have to go intuitively with what feels right. That's how we teach this in our courses. We teach people how to work very intuitively, which is why they get to learn how to deliver bespoke meditations for whoever they're working with, whatever ability, whatever age, and so on. So mindfulness for me is that. Whereas meditation, which is more of an umbrella term of many different things, can sometimes also incorporate what I call using our imagination, sometimes called visualization. And I think that that's really helpful, especially when we're working with younger children who have quite creative imaginations, which we tend to lose a little bit of as we get older, or maybe we just use it for more negative fears and worries. So it's a great way of using and working with children's imaginations to help them really let go of anything that's bothering them. In my classes, I show how the power of our mind and imagination can actually bring physiological responses in our body. So we can either release or bring about a stress response just by our perception based on our imagination of certain circumstances that we're in. And children are no different. In fact, I think it's slightly more difficult for children because they don't always feel heard. Although you might disagree with that when they're quite noisy, but I mean their true feelings and emotions or their thoughts, they find it very difficult to articulate what is going on. They haven't got the experience or the words yet in which to do that. So I think giving them some imagery that helps them to, in a playful way, recognise what's going on and to release it can be extremely empowering and a very powerful way to release that stress that's built up that they don't know how to name, but it's there. So we really encourage our students to deliver a meditation which is more playful and creative, because once you have that ability to be creative, you can bring that both into teaching visualization and that kind of meditation, in addition to delivering mindfulness, because being present with your feelings and thoughts is just as important for delivering meditation. So it helps us bring it into both. The one caveat I would use for that in terms of using children's imaginations is that, one, we have to consider how old they are and how much they believe, because remember they believe in Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy. So, we don't want to let them think they have superpowers, like flying, unless we help them to see afterwards that there is a difference between what is created in their imagination and what is actually they're physically capable of doing. So that's one thing, is to be careful of. The second thing is I've noticed is that sometimes when children, especially in this day and age, are using a lot of computer games, and I know there are age limits on computer games. However, I have this discussion with my husband all the time about it, because he says, well, they won't get access to them. And I know, and you know, that somehow they still do. So if they're playing a game which is unfortunately a bit violent, or even a driving game which obviously brings us into the stress response because our mind believes that it's real, their bodies are reacting as if that situation is real, and their imaginations are being fed sometimes with very negative imagery, which is okay for the adult mind, but for the developing child's mind, not so much. So what we've found, that even though I would encourage you to use children's imaginations for like younger children, like preschool and into early school, if they've been playing a lot of computer games, I actually wouldn't use their imagination. And in that case, I would definitely recommend some mindfulness techniques to help them get a little bit more control over their mind before we then encourage them to use their imagination. And when we are, teaching children meditation, as I mentioned earlier about noticing what you feel, one of the things that even as adults we sometimes struggle with is what we're feeling. And we often don't even want to or allow ourselves to feel something that's what we perceive as negative. So as an adult, there may be a feeling of sadness that comes up. I had a client today who was experiencing that, and I could see that she was punishing herself for the feeling of sadness. And yet when we worked together and she was allowed to accept that it's okay to feel sad, that's a normal part of being a human being, and it passes. It was like a huge weight had been lifted from her. So, we as adults are able to at least articulate what that feeling is. For children, it's a little bit more challenging. And in the UK, we call it emotional intelligence, where we are encouraging them to recognise what the feeling is. And there are some really great ways you can ask them to do that. They don't have to necessarily name the feeling. They could give it a shape and a colour. They could give it an animal. And obviously that would be for younger children. You might want to get them to work with that. They could notice where they feel it in their body. And they could notice what a feeling like sadness or anger feels like compared to joy or happiness. And so we get the opportunity then to bring some mindfulness in at that point to show them what the different feelings are like. And I think that's really important for us going forward as a civilization, that we start to really pay attention to every single aspect of ourselves, and not beat ourselves up about what we feel, because this is what the human experience is. So we should encourage our children and allow them to feel and notice that too. And I think sometimes that when children have tantrums, the reason that they have tantrums is because they're so frustrated that they don't know how to express what's going on. So they do the immediate fallback position, which is to kick out or to make a noise or whatever it is. And that's recognising the frustration. So I think if we teach them a little bit mindfulness of how the emotions feel and using terminology that they can understand, we give them a great skill for life. So this is just a little insight into what I teach, how I explain things. I hope you found it useful. If you're already teaching meditation, thank you so much, because the more people that do this, the better as far as I'm concerned. Whether you do our course or read our book or do or use whatever you can, it's wonderful. If you're on the brink of maybe doing it a little bit nervous, then read some books, get a little bit of training, and if it's your own children, just give yourself the opportunity to try. I'm a great believer that children teach us when we teach them meditation. They teach us how to be very present with them and to enjoy the experience. So if you have any questions and you would like to know more, please look at our website, which is teachchildrenmeditation.com, or email me at info@teachchildrenmeditation.com. Our website is undergoing a bit of a revamp. I know it's a little bit clunky just now. It's not so easy to move around. So if you get a bit stuck or you can't find what you're looking for, just drop me an email. So thank you for listening, and I may do one of these in the future. Thanks, bye now.